Hey guys, welcome to another video on the Inside Spurs channel. Happy Thursday morning to you all. Hope you're all right. Hope you are all okay. And we're looking forward to the Aston Villa game tomorrow evening. We'll be previewing the game, obviously the last game ahead of next Wednesday's Europa League final. What we can hope to expect from the team, what we can hope to expect from the performance, the players playing even. I think there's a lot that's going to go into this game, and yeah, it's an awkward game. Let's be real. We want to win as Spurs fans every single game. All right, every football fan wants to win every single game, and then there's always that situation where you stick a fork in a game because there's something a little bit more important either side of it. And the reason I say that is I want to talk about the two games that we've played most recently. That's either been ahead of the first leg against Bodo Glimt or the second leg in between. Or the game in between the first and second leg. So we're talking about the Liverpool game. I'm going to be talking about the West Ham game as well. It gives us a bit of an idea maybe what we could expect from the team going forward, really. Because obviously having no Maddison, having no Kulusevski, having no Lucas Bergvall, no Radu Dragajin, there's a lot of things that go in and coincide with that. Obviously Manchester United also play tomorrow away at Chelsea. They'll be expecting, their fans, obviously, we're expecting to rotate. And you also, as Spurs and Manchester United, you're playing against two teams that are fighting for Champions League football through the league positions. So against two teams that are going to put out their strongest 11 and what that might happen to us. Okay. So I hope the day's treating you well. And let's get started. Let's crack on talking about Aston Villa. Let's talk about Villa's run of the last five going into this game. Coming off of the back of two wins, which is obviously great, and two clean sheets at home to Fulham and away to Bournemouth. But the two before that, they lost in the FA Cup semi-finals at Wembley versus Crystal Palace. And they lost the game right before that against the other FA Cup finalist in Manchester City, and then did beat Newcastle 4-1 at home. So coming off the back of three wins in their last five, pretty solid. Obviously, the FA Cup's in there. Tough pill, really, I think, for Villa to have swallowed, but it is what it is. That's the way the cookie crumbles. Now, I was looking at a team that started against Bournemouth, and it wasn't the greatest performance by Villa. They had less shots on target, 33% possession, 0 corners. Very much dominated. Obviously, it doesn't help when Jacob Ramsey was sent off in the 80th minute. Obviously, we can expect not to see Jacob Ramsey now against us. But looking at the team that started for Aston Villa that day, Martinez in goal, Digne, Mings, Concert, Cash, back four. Anana, Kamara is your midfield two. Ramsey, Asensio, Morgan Rogers, and Ollie Watkins. Obviously, you could expect at least one change being Jacob Ramsey, obviously with the two bookings and the sending off. Do you want to have a look at the Tyrone Mings situation? He went off in the 70th minute. I don't think he's injured. I could be wrong, but I don't think he's injured. We'll sort of see on that one. I think they've looked better when Mings has been starting for them, though. So, if he is fit to play, I expect him to start. I mean, looking at the league table for Villa right now, they are... Nottingham Forest have dropped to 7th. Mental how that's all happened. But Villa are 3 points behind Newcastle, who are in 3rd. They're actually 5 points behind Arsenal in 2nd. Obviously, Arsenal, if they weren't to finish in the top 5, it would be an almighty travesty. And it would be the almightiest cock-up going. But, 3 points behind 3rd of Newcastle. The issue for Villa is their goal difference. It's 12 worse than Chelsea. It's 17 worse than City. It's 16 worse than Newcastle. Hell, it's 5 worse than Nottingham Forest. So that's a tough one for them, really. They're going to want to try and salvage it if possible. If other teams, lose and things like that. So Villa aren't in a strong spot in regards to that. Now, Chelsea, obviously above them in the league, they're playing Manchester United, like I said, in the other Friday night kickoff. Both teams should win. And I will be honest, I'll put out there early doors. I expect Aston Villa to win this game. If they don't, it's an almighty cock-up of their situation as well. Both teams winning this, though, would go joint 3rd. They'd go ahead of Manchester City Man City would drop to 6th just naturally. Obviously, City aren't playing this weekend. They've got the FA Cup final against Crystal Palace. It's a massive game for Aston Villa. 2 games left. Try and they need to win out, in my opinion, to have a chance. Because Man City play Fulham away and Bournemouth at home. If I'm honest, I expect them to win both those games. Newcastle play away at Arsenal. Now, that's a difficult game, you know. Losing that could be huge for Newcastle. And then they play Everton at home. Everton obviously safe for the season. Chelsea play Manchester United, like I said, tomorrow night. And they play on the last game of the season away to Nottingham Forest, which if Forest were to do their business, they should have done their business against Leicester, by the way. They have thrown this away, in my opinion. They've got West Ham away and then Chelsea last game of the season. So there's a situation where these teams all need to go out and do their business. So we'll sort of see on that one. Sorry, morning, Graham. Sorry, I forgot to say good morning to some people. Morning, Graham and Spurs. And Jeremy, how are we? All caption, how are we? Andy, no excuses. I want to see you on the pitch at Villa taking out Cash, Mings and McGinn before they injure any Spurs players. I don't care if you get sent off. Yeah, I think if I hit a few of these players, it might hurt a little bit differently to the way it would if they did it to someone else. I weigh a lot more than some of these players. Liam, how are you, my friend? Players still need to keep up their fitness and sharpness. Well, let's talk about the last 2 games that Spurs played in the Premier League that factored into Europa League ties. So let's start with Liverpool. I'm not really caring about the result, by the way, in these 2 games. Just follow me. The team that started against Liverpool, obviously, I think we were very wary about certain players playing like Romero and Mickey. Obviously, they just bringing up Spurs and their fixtures. You want to see, we played on the Monday night, didn't we? We played on Monday night against Nottingham Forest. Yeah, we played on Monday night against Nottingham Forest, and then we played on the following Sunday. So a lot of the sort of first teamers that you would hope for got a lot of minutes, or at least enough, 45 to 90, something like that, against Forest on the Monday night, leading into Sunday, which is obviously the Liverpool game. So the starting 11 was Vic, Destiny, Davies, Danso, Spence, Gray, Bergvall, Maddison, Tell, Solanke, and Johnson. So quite a strong team when you think about it, because obviously Son was injured. He's not playing. No, Son did play in the first leg. I swear he did. Let me quickly look at that. I swear he played in the first leg. Bodo Glimt. Did Sonny play in the first? No, he didn't, did he? It was Richie. What I'm on about is Richie. It was Elfsborg. I saw a video of Elfsborg and I just sort of put 2 and 2 together. Hey, Sonia, how are you? So, look, that's quite a strong team. When we look at the game against West Ham, which is obviously the Sunday between the first leg of Bodo Glimt and then the second leg against Bodo Glimt, it was Vicario, Spence, Davies, Danso, Gray, Basuma, Sarr, Kulu, Tell, Odebear, and Richie. If I'm honest, when I look at the game against Palace last weekend, right? And Kinski started, Spence, Davies, Danso, Porro, Bentancur, Gray, Sarr, Odebear, Kulu, Tell. If I'm honest, I wouldn't expect to see Porro and I wouldn't expect to see Bentancur because they have played some minutes. For me, I don't really see the point in playing them even 45 minutes. They've played 45 minutes in the last game. The idea is then they can come in and have, just over a week's rest. Because obviously you've got to factor in travel. You are traveling to Bilbao. It's good for those guys to be as fresh as possible. So I'd hope to see neither of them, is what I'm saying, with Porro and Bentancur. With the other starters, when we think about like Vic, I could see Vic starting, but with Vic, I don't think it's as crucial. I don't mind seeing Vic start. I will be real. I don't mind seeing Vic start, but I don't think it's as vital. For the defense, 45 minutes. Like I don't want to see any of these players playing any more than 45 minutes. Like Mickey, Romero, and Destiny be the only players from the starting team that you would expect that might play. Max 45 minutes. I don't even care if you're having to bring 16-year-olds onto the pitch or 17 or 18-year-olds. Max 45 minutes. In the midfield, Bissouma and Sarr, I would expect to feature. Gray would if they played Destiny, Mickey, and Kuti, then Spence would play right back, and then Gray would play in the midfield. Because I think they probably look at it and go, Bentancur's not going to start. I don't know. I see the point in playing Bissouma, Gray, and Sarr as a midfield. Like I'd much rather play like Bissouma, Gray, and someone else in the midfield, right? And then substituting Bissouma at half time for Sarr and giving him 45 minutes, because Sarr might play in the final. Let's not hide away from that. He might start in the final. We don't know what's going to happen with that midfield, but I would expect Biss to start, so 45 minutes of Biss. And then when you think of the front three, again, who's the front three? Tel, Odeberg, Kulu. And Son got 35 minutes, I remember. Richie was on the bench and Slanky was on the bench. They might even go 45 minutes each for the strikers. Or they go, for example, Mikey Moore, Tell, and Odeberg, and then Slanky for last half an hour, or Richie and Slanky for last half an hour. Because the thing is, right, and Jono, let's not forget Jono. My thinking is, as much like I don't want to see any starters playing this game because I don't want to risk any injuries, right? I also want them to get some minutes so they can go into the game with a bit of sharpness, right? So, for example, Mickey and Kuti, like together, Rolls Royces, phenomenal, a brilliant centre-back partnership. It would have been just under 2 weeks since they had played last. So they played against Bodo Glimt in the second leg, were amazing, and they were, dominant in those ties against that team. But it would have been nearly 2 weeks. And yeah, you factor in travel, and that can play a part on players' fitness and things like that. But they wouldn't have played in 2 weeks. Is their match sharpness at an all-time high? I'd be interested to see what Manchester United do tomorrow, because I don't know if Dalot will be fit enough to play, like just now. I don't know if Yoro will be back. He's been doing some gym work solo, so I doubt he would. But then he also did play some minutes last weekend against West Ham. De Ligt, I don't think will be back. He might be. De Ligt might be back and he might get some minutes. Dorgu, because I don't see Man United making like 11 changes. I think they'll play some starters. I don't foresee them playing like Bruno. Like Bruno doesn't need to play this game. Just rest him now for a week. Give him a week's rest because he's going to be running around a lot, and you want Bruno to be as sharp as possible. For Man United to win, I think Bruno needs to have a good game. Even if it's just he puts in 2 good crosses and they score on both, for an assist like Bruno, that's a good game. He doesn't need to dictate play and dominate in midfield. That's not his game in terms of he plays quite further forward from a midfield. In the midfield, you want Casemiro and Ugarte to dominate the game if possible. So I expect to see like Ericsson play in the game tomorrow night. I'd expect to see Bayindir maybe in goal. Luke Shaw maybe plays 45. I think they'll try and get Luke Shaw some minutes and try and get him some sharpness. He will be off the pace regardless. He won't be 100% because he's played no football this year. But they'll try and get him some, because obviously that will benefit them in the final. Like if they need to dig in and hold on a lead, or if they need to, replace a player that gets injured, you want to bring on someone that is ready to go. We'll see about De Ligt and Dalot and Yoro, but you'd expect Maguire maybe to play. I don't know what other centre half. I don't know if other centre halves are actually that fit. And what happens with Mazraoui and Lindelof? They've got some options. You know what I mean? Like they can rotate back there if necessary. I wouldn't expect to see Casemiro or Ugarte. If Collier's back, they'd probably play Collier and Mainu, is kind of my guess. Wing backs is hard to say because of Dalot. I don't think Dalot is going to be playing any minutes. This would have been his second day of back on grass individual training. So I don't think you'll see Dalot tomorrow. I think he will be a final, game time decision. Dorgu expects, and I know this is Man United. This isn't a part of the preview for Villa. I'm just giving you an idea of how I expect them to. They will rotate, but they will have some first teamers playing to get some minutes and sharpness, because it's important for players like Eriksen off the bench. If you need to create something, you bring on Eriksen, don't you? We know Eriksen. He might not be the most mobile around the pitch as much as he used to, and yeah, maybe he's not great defensively. But if you've pinned a team back and you're trying to unlock that team, for me, Eriksen is still. I think he'd be their best playmaker. He just doesn't have the legs as much to play where they want him to. And then up front, Chido, Obi, Martin, I think his name is. He'll probably start. They'll say Højlund played against West Ham. He doesn't need to play again. He's fine for the final. He might play some minutes, but I don't think he'll play many. So for Spurs, he might go Vic and goal, and it wouldn't shock me. Try and get Vic some sharpness, but for me, I don't think you need Vic to get sharpness. I think Vic's fine enough. I'd say Kinski will probably play the minutes. I would say one of the three, at least one of the three of Destiny, Mickey, Kuti will start, in my opinion. It might be Destiny, and then they play Davies and Danso, and then you substitute Destiny at half time. You put Spence at left back, you play Gray out at right back, and then you play in the mid. Like Gray, I think will start in the midfield, because I think Destiny might start at left back, so therefore Spence could go play at right back. Gray in the midfield with Biss, and I don't know if they go Biss and Sarr. I just don't think it's worth risking both on the pitch at the same time. I'd much rather one be substituted on for the other at half time, or one substitute for the other at half time, because I expect Gray to drop back to right back with Spence go left back when Destiny substitute at half time. And then, Odebear or Olusesi in the midfield, I could be on board with that. And then the front three, Odebear, yeah. They might give minutes to Johnson. They might keep his sharpness up for those back post runs in the final. Johnson, Tell, Moore. I think maybe that's kind of the thinking I'm going to go with. I don't think we win this game. I think we lose 3-1, by the way. I do think we lose. You're making wholesale changes, and any first teamers that are playing are going to play 45 minutes. Max 60. I don't think you're going to get 90 minutes out of Mickey and Romero. So I think we will lose this game. Villa are obviously fighting for Champions League football through the league. They need 3 points in this game, especially because Chelsea should destroy Man United, because, again, they are going to be rotating, and Chelsea need the points. There's an opportunity, obviously, with second playing third. There's an opportunity for teams to drop points in that game. If there's a draw there, that's huge. City aren't playing this weekend. There's an opportunity to put pressure on City when they play Tuesday night against Bournemouth. So that's why I think they'll be up for it. I don't think a loss does anything to us. I think what we want to see is good effort levels and try and see how I've always viewed these games, glass half full. Is there someone, or is there a couple of players that step up and stand out, even in a defeat, in terms of they played quite well? They scored a goal. What we've seen with Tell, we've seen with Richie, especially those two. Tell scoring against Southampton, the penalty, and then scoring against Wolves. Richie scoring against Forest and Wolves. They have picked up a little bit of self-form and self-confidence that when we played against Bodo Glimt, Richie gets an assist 37 seconds in because he's sharp. He's been playing some minutes. Tell, in the second leg, he gets the he takes the corner for Romero to head down into Solanke, and on the counter, Tell sets up the counter-attack for the second goal. So, a real opportunity for some other players that, like Ange said, if they look at it as, I don't want to get injured for the final, or I'm not going to play in the final, so why do I bother? Then that's not the right attitude. Because I tell you what, these players who have played Premier League football whilst, let's say, Bissouma's come into the midfield, but Pape, for example, hasn't played as many Europa League minutes because he's been playing more Premier League minutes. If he had killed it in the Premier League and just dropped 8 out of 10s over those few weeks, Pape would have started against Bodo Glimt. Pape would start the final as the player next to Bentancur. But Basuma's come into those games because Pape hasn't really played that well in the Premier League. Basuma's probably more defensively aware, and Basuma looked really good in those 2 games. And now Basuma's on to start the final because of that. So when you get given the opportunity, you take the opportunity. You make the most of that opportunity. And we haven't had enough of that this season. And Ange said there's probably some players that have ruled themselves out playing in the final for poor performance over the last few weeks. And that's that, really, you know. Let's see some of your comments. Johnny Evans will play. Wow, legend. Scored against us this season. We play our academy players as well. There'll be some academy players. Ajayi, Moore, Olusesi could feature. Just trying to think of who else, maybe. There might be some other midfielders, but, you know, there'll be some players on the bench, you would think. Glasgow rotate the whole Frankfurt squad yet. It's not necessarily a good thing to rotate more than 5 players. No, it's not. It's not. But when it comes to keeping players fresh, we might rotate 6 players for the start. But you know, at half time, we'll make 3 substitutions. So you're rotating now 9 players into the second half. So we're not going to play sexy, amazing football. I'll put it out there early doors. We're not playing sexy, amazing football tomorrow night. And I don't think we're going to win. But, you know, if we could, amazing. But for me, all I want to see is at least 1 or 2 players stand out, play well. And again, you've got that starting 11 that plays against Bodo Glimt both legs that are confident as anything, knowing that they have been winning massive games in Europe, knockout games in Europe. They're ready for the final. Like I said about Richie and Tell, you add that sort of situation into those 11, and that festers in a good way. That builds even more confidence. You're adding more and more to it. You know, it's like if you have a glass, if you have a full glass of water. Well, if you add in another couple of splashes of water, it might overflow in a good way. You've got so much water, you know, and that's the beautiful thing, right? That's my thinking. If player back 3, would you try it out? No, I just don't see the reason to play a back 3 when we have questions about our midfield. Use this game as an opportunity to try and build on that and work on what you want that midfield to look like come the final. We already have a big question mark there. I don't want to look at the idea that you play now back 5. You get what I mean? Bergvall trying his best. Yeah, so I don't know about Lautaro Martinez and his situations, mate. I don't really know. But yeah, I talked about Bergvall yesterday. Bergvall is... Someone actually put it out on Twitter. Let me bring out what they said to give you an idea. Here we go. Bergvall has surprised the medical team with his recovery. Still touch and go, but he's pushing as hard as possible to be ready for the final. He has also allegedly told Ange he'd rather play carrying an injury than not at all. Interesting. That is an unbelievable mindset. So, look, Lucas has an opportunity to make the final. We were told he was done for the season. It isn't completely ruled out, but don't hang your hat on it that he will play in the final. We talked about it yesterday. Try to have the idea that he won't play in the final, and then if he is even able to make the bench for 15 minutes, that's a bonus. But factor in him not starting and play around with that idea. And then if he ends up being able to, great. If he doesn't, so be it, you know. Richie start in the final. Well, they'll see about Richie. Solanke will be starting, obviously, as a striker. So they'll see about left wing. Do they go... Yeah, there's chatter about Son has played some 10 in training. So we'll see if Son plays the 10 role. Then obviously you are going to have a different left winger. You know, in terms of the starting 11, Son is obviously the starting left winger. Will they go Tell for the creativity, or will they go Richie? We'll have to see. We'll have to see. Who would have thought? Who would think a useless game could be so interesting? Honestly, there's so many things that go into this game. You know, had let's say just Maddison out of the 3 of them been fit, we wouldn't have a question mark because we'd go, well, it's Bentancur, Biss, and Madders, isn't it? And then the front 3 will be, you know, Son or Tell, for example, or Richie. you've got options. It's not a big deal. Solanke Jono, Destiny Mickey Kuti Romero, and Porro, and Vicario. But because we've got, 3 midfielders who would, between them, when Maddison goes out injured, Kula would start that position. If Kula goes out injured, Bergvall would start that position. Well, Bergvall's injured now as well, so someone's got to take his position. So there's so many question marks. Bentancur and Basuma are now the only 2 locks in that midfield. Will they go Pape for a bit more structure? Maybe. Will they go Sonny in the 10 role? Maybe. Will they go Odegaard? Maybe. Obviously, Odegaard's played minutes at 10 before, albeit in the league below, but he has done it. Not in the league, Bo. He did it in the Premier League, didn't he? My bad. But a couple of years ago. No, last season. What am I on about? Last season. So we'll sort of see. It's hard to predict. I'll be interested to see how he goes tomorrow, because if he goes in the 10 role with Odegaard tomorrow, that's revealing. That could be hey, we want to see what he's got because he's going to be playing Wednesday. That's why it's a question mark. So let me know your thoughts and feelings about the game, your scoreline, your team prediction, all those things. I'm happy to know what it is. Obviously, if you're watching this back and I'm not live, still let me know. I'm always happy to know. A couple more minutes and then I've got to head off because I've got to jump onto an interview in 9 minutes' time. So I've only got a couple more minutes left. Let me know your scoreline predictions. I'm still going 3-1 to Villa. We're going to be rotating quite heavily throughout the game. They're going to be playing their strongest fit 11, which is pretty much as fit as you can get. I know Ramsey's missing, so there's that. So for me, I think Villa will win 3-1. Who scores for us? Pape. Don't know why. I just get a vibe Pape long shot. So I think we might struggle to create, and I just think a long shot might do it. Pape's got a decent long shot on him as well. Let's not hide away from that fact. That might be a factor in the final. Pape on the long shot, because their 2 keepers spill long shots to strikers and oncoming attackers. So let's not forget about that. Graham reckons Star starts in the final, and we have no number 10. But he also reckons Villa will win. Jazz reckons 2-2 because Villa will bottle it. Mar says are not before the game and may not be available for the game. But Lautaro. It depends on the severity of the injury, right? If Bergvall's is more severe, then I also I try not to compare injuries because it's easily different from one person to another. I expect Villa to win because they are desperate to get Champions League next season. Sonia says, yeah, I think so as well. I think Villa need the win and will attack, leaving spaces behind. I think we'll leave spaces behind though, and they'll capitalise on us. That's why I think 3-1. I think it'll be 2-0, 2-1, and then they score at the end to make it 3-1. So we'll see. Pitch side. No, Kulu has had surgery. You have a look at Tottenham Hotspur and their Instagram or Twitter account. He has had surgery. He is done. He is absolutely done for the season, mate. Bergvall is not completely ruled out, but Kulu is done. He had patella tendon surgery or something like that, I think it was, in his knee. So completely gone, unfortunately. But it is what it is. But look, thank you so much for joining me this morning and into your afternoons. You absolute legends. We'll be back tomorrow to give you my last-minute thoughts after the press conference today from Ange ahead of Aston Villa. And also maybe some injury news. You never know what comes from it. Go and enjoy the rest of your mornings, your afternoons, your evenings, wherever you are in the world. And I'll speak to you all soon to talk a lot more about Tottenham. Take care, everyone. Peace.